You're in the place where mysteries and the missing meet, where conspiracies lurk around every corner. Welcome to the Deep, Dark Truth.
Greetings, Truth Seekers, from Mo from the future. A few little housekeeping things. We are back from hiatus. We're so excited. In the next few weeks, we're going to be covering The Bell Witch. Mikey's going to continue his Blood series. After spooky season is over, we'll be covering some missing murdered Indigenous women cases and some other things that we have in the works. We're very excited. There is still time to submit any of your potential spooky encounters. We would love to hear them. You could send them to the Deep Dark Truth podcast at gmail.com. Or you can text them to the tip line at 313-355-3411. Now that we have that out of the way, I will let Mo from the past take it away. Today is our yearly Q&A episode, where we discuss all the ridiculous questions that we have saved up throughout the year, etc., etc.
We just got back from our vacation, so if we're a little messy, also Mo desperately wants to be watching Critical Role, so...
That is factual. Everything you said is true. So we are going to jump right in with the Q&A questions, because that's what the whole episode is. Why would we not do that? I will ask the first question. If you could speak to one deceased person for 30 seconds, who would it be, and what would you say?
It's just 30 seconds is so short. I'm not even sure the point of it, besides like, oh, hi, Grandma, you're dead, I love you.
I mean, or it's asking like a burning question. 30 seconds is short. Okay, let's change this. Sorry, the question sucks. Anyways.
Revised question.
Revised question. Let's say 30 minutes.
Okay, so that's very different.
It is.
So if I had the 30 minutes, it would definitely be my grandpa. And I don't know that I would say anything in particular other than just wanting to have like another conversation with him, you know? But if it was 30 seconds, I definitely would ask somebody who was murdered, like who fucking murdered them.
I feel like that's the for me, also my perfect answer. It would be my grandma, and also it would be asking somebody that was murdered who murdered them.
Yeah, it would definitely be like Alina Chapin or Sequoia. Like, I would definitely reach out to one of them and be like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah, it's got to be something like that, because it can't be someone who was killed by a serial killer, because they probably don't know him. In some
right.
Yeah.
Those types of serial killers.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll go with those answers by default. 30 minutes. Whoever.
Oh, Adam. All right. So, this question. If you were cursed to go on an all-expense-paid cruise with 3 serial killers, who would they be? So here is the setup, the caveats. You get to choose who, but you have to hang out with them the entire cruise. They cannot kill you, but if given the chance, they can kill others. Who do you go on the cruise with, and how do you navigate them being a killer?
I'm going to... I mean, is this assuming that they are a serial killer if they haven't been proven that they are a serial killer? Like, can I use...
who are you about to call out as a serial killer who's not a verified serial killer?
Or do you mean, like, broad general sense, like, we don't know who it is, but, like, now we know who the Golden State Killer is. But at the time, being, like...
The Countess is what I'm referring to.
Okay.
Which one is that?
Elizabeth Bathory.
Elizabeth Bathory would be one of mine.
But wasn't she technically convicted?
Technically, yeah. She was convicted. So I'm going with Elizabeth Bathory, Ted Bundy, and Jack the Ripper, because that level of insanity, I want to pick that brain.
See, I'm trying to figure out who's the easiest to babysit. Jack the Ripper is not an easy one to babysit.
That's fair.
And I had the thought of someone who, like, you know, some queen poisons all her husbands or whatever. But that is, you take your eye off of her for 1 second and the food is poisoned and the whole buffet is dead. So that's not going to work either.
I feel like she had motives, though, right? Do you think she would kill innocent people, or was it just like a ex-husband thing?
I didn't have a specific one in mind, just, you know, there are definitely women who have done that. Black widows, as they were.
I'm going definitely H.H. Holmes.
Okay.
And probably Vlad the Impaler, which I feel like definitely counts.
Yeah, I would say it counts.
I don't know who my third is yet, but I figure, like, if I have to be around these people and talk to them, I want people who I think are interesting.
John Wayne Gacy, because he had such a type that I can just keep him isolated from guys, young guys.
That's fair. He would be easy to isolate. We said a babysitting at the evil baby orphanage. That's basically what it is. Like, how do you navigate? Like, you lock them in a room. That's the only way to navigate, I feel like. Unless we're just following them around. But there's no way.
I mean, like, we're required to hang out with them, the premise said. So no matter what, we have to hang out with them.
We have to hang out with them.
Yeah, but we can, like, hang out with them in our locked cabin, right?
Yeah, I mean, have food delivered, pushed through the door.
So that's how I navigate room service.
I'm also going with Violet Jessup, the woman who sunk the Olympic and the Titanic and the Britannic.
And it all circles back.
Did Chip just go there?
Don't act like you don't want to jump right on his
It's
bandwagon.
fucked up. I want to jump so fast.
Is it? It's technically serial killing if it's multiple mass murders.
I'm kind of pissed that I didn't come up with it.
Okay, moving on.
Props to you,
All right,
Chip.
Chip,
Props
you
to
pick one.
If you could switch lives with any one person for the day, who do you choose? We're saying a 24-hour period, midnight to midnight, has to be living.
I feel like this answer fluctuates based on what point in time the question is, but the answer is always whoever is the current sitting president of the United States. And I think it's because I want to know exactly how much they really know about everything that's going on in the government and like the president's book and all that bullshit, and how much is like actually being run by super PACs and shit that the president has no idea what's happening.
I was also thinking the president in who can I choose who will be the most efficient to change something. Like, I have one day to work on shit.
Right. But you just fire half your cabinet and install a new cabinet, and there's 13 Supreme Court justices, and you're like, what can I fuck up as quickly as possible?
Or I bet I just get some documents and just release them to the public. Just get that out there and then peace.
Yeah.
My original thought was like Queen Elizabeth, because I just think that if I'm going to find out the most amount of information from the world, it's probably through the Queen. Maybe.
I'm not considering the Queen, because then you get to say, I abdicate, I end the royal line. You could just do that.
Yeah.
You could. Mikey does have a point. I feel like the Queen knows the like really antique secrets that would be like scandals now, but like they wouldn't be huge political leverage. It's like, sure, tell the world what we did in 1962. They'll forget about it by the next day, by the next news cycle.
But could you also imagine the amount of influence you would have if you wanted to say something to the world and you were Queen Elizabeth, you could say it?
That's fair. I feel like what you said, no matter how political it would be seen as less political than having come from any other world leader.
Correct.
Weirdly.
Despite them being just as political and manipulating everything is just as much.
They absolutely are, but they don't currently actually hold a substantial amount of actual political power in terms of changing government. And so
in the most technical sense,
right.
Yeah.
So people see them as like, the Queen would never.
The Queen has far more respect than any other leader, I think, in a general sense from the world view. Like from everybody's
go with
perspective.
it because I don't know who else would, but yeah, there's something there.
Yeah, and it honestly, it's like, you know, the approval rating of political leaders is, you know, all over the place, but nobody, the world views the Queen completely different than a political leader.
I agree.
Like
with
if you were going to say something, most people would listen. And it's about the audience that she would control. And that's true power.
I think it also has to do with like now versus 10 years ago, though. I feel like, especially when we were children, the kind of pull that the Queen had, just talking about the Queen, and just the entire royal family. Like, I remember the day Princess Diana died. It is a core memory for me. There were people in the streets sobbing. I was in Canada at the time, by the way. Just
okay. I was like, in Detroit?
No, just losing their absolute marbles, sobbing in the street. Which Princess Diana's death is absolutely tragic, but the way that I was watching people respond to it. And also, this was not only Canada, it was Niagara Falls.
We got the tourists, and some of them are British, and...
Yeah, the various colonies that even once independent, like Canada, still are extremely British.
Yeah, what Canada is complicated. But yeah, I'm now backed up on the Queen. Even if you can only leak certain information, I do want to say what happened to Princess Diana, just to stir the pot. Even if I say something fake, it's fun.
I'm still going with the president, but it's because I'm selfish. I want to know all the information for me versus I feel like the kind of information I want to know is the kind of information the president of the United States has versus trying to inform of a very specific thing, and then I would want to be the queen.
Jeff Bezos, give myself 51% of Amazon.
Perfect.
Myself being Nick. Chip. Who the fuck am I? If famous people, president, or I guess queen. No, I'd rather the president. Not famous person or small famous person, Mike Champagne.
You don't want to be Mikey. I would want to.
Just for one day.
It's so much. It's so much.
Not a work day.
I think you'd quit before the day was over.
It's not about what Mikey thinks it's about. It's about, like, how do you get anything done when somebody's stopping you every 5 feet to say hi? Like, how do you get things done? That's why I don't want to be Mikey.
Just one day. Not swapping lives. No Prince Popper. Just the one day.
Just feels exhausting.
Yes.
So I'm going to do this highly kind of philosophical bullshit now, because I'm already on the precipice of not being able to answer whatever the fuck this is. So, I've always been fascinated by the phenomenon, or rather the connection between male serial killers and sexual dysfunction. We're off to a strong fucking start. How do you think that that's been affected by the current social climate? While it feels like there's more toxic masculinity than ever, I sometimes feel that we're more aware of it because of social media. Have numbers gone up or down in recent years? Has the amount of visibility affected serial killers' ability to operate while maintaining under the radar?
This isn't a research episode, bud.
Let's talk about the connection between male serial killers and sexual dysfunction. How do we think that's been affected by the current social climate? I think that there is entire 4chan boards that are currently producing serial killers that never would have been serial killers. I think that the internet makes it very easy to radicalize people that otherwise might have never become radicalized. I think that it's one, like, radicalization of the internet in general, like that we see with all various things, from QAnon to sections of 4chan to sections of Reddit to whatever. It feeds into a certain kind of obsession that then makes you become radicalized, and we don't talk about how easy it is for normal people to become radicalized by disinformation. Because brainwashing exists.
Or not even disinformation, but a plethora of information as well could tip the scales. I mean, if you are solely concentrating and looking up rape and violence and rape and violence and rape and violence and rape and violence, and yeah, I mean, it could go either way. Too much information can be harmful. You know what I mean?
Well, and the way that information is presented to you.
Exactly.
Like, I can cite off a statistic and say, like, 9% of X, Y, and Z things, blah, blah, blah. But there could be caveats to that. That could be 9% of a very specific, like, the women in Chile versus, like, the women in the world. You can say a bunch of bullshit that's technically true, but it's so out of place that the context of it is completely lost.
It's skewed.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a politically neutral statistic. Even just the way you word things changes things significantly.
Yeah, and not to mention that news and social media in general is completely negative in comparison to the real, like, world. You know, I know that there's a lot of negative shit happening in the world, but it's far more reported than positive, and that goes along with everything. You know, how many positive experiences happen at that fast food McDonald's, but how many reviews are negative?
Yeah, I just said to Michael read something to me, you know, some open-ended clickbait shit, and both of us said, I don't want to know. like at the same time, and I looked at him and I said, I just want one day where I don't hear some catastrophically unprecedented bad thing. I just want a day. That's where I'm at mentally.
Yeah, I think the 24-hour news cycle and news for profit is also part of this, and what gets people to click shit. But if you only had a couple hours to allot, you only pick the things that matter, as opposed to every little fucking thing.
Well, also you have to think about negative news and how how you perceive it. So if you're channel surfing and you pass a news station and it's like, puppies and kittens are getting adopted today at Blake Farms, your brain doesn't stop and actually give a shit about that good thing. But if they say a serial killer is on the loose, or X, Y, and Z just sentenced to 15 years in prison, or whatever, R. Kelly, 30 years in prison, Ghislaine Maxwell, 20 years in prison. Like, these are things I know, but I couldn't tell you absolutely anything else that happened in the last several days. But I can tell you those things, because those are the things that you see, that you stop for, that people talk about.
Yeah, and it's ingrained in our culture to become part of our anatomy, almost, in a sense, like you're saying, reward and punishment, and you know what I mean? Like that, your brain doing those things.
And it's about what's upsetting the norm, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What is currently upsetting the norm, and therefore what is for cultural safety out of place. And it makes you stop. And it makes you pay attention to it and think of all the bad things.
But I mean, also with all of this, a lot of it is also just evolutionary. A false positive is always better than a false negative in your survival context in this sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It depends on the situation. But so, it's just now our brains are built for, I'm in a forest being eaten by a lion versus...
Has social media and the internet provided resources for predators to stalk and hunt victims? Absolutely. Also, technology in general, like Apple tagging, how easy it is to sex traffic is a totally different world compared to what it would have been 30 years ago.
Stalking in general.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the telephone is a technology that has made it easier to stalk people. So, yeah, of course the internet has too.
There's also an element of, how normalized things are, right? Like, we talk about people Facebook stalking. Like, you hear a story from your friend that's like, oh, this girl at work, Sharon, you know everything about Sharon. And then eventually you're like, I need to know what Sharon looks like. And then you're on Sharon's Facebook profile and you're like, this seems like you would do this, Sharon. You're right.
Ugh, fucking Sharon.
Fucking Sharon. So there is this other element of part of the culture now is to be able to easily obsess over things and get the gratification of actually being able to figure out what a person might be like or thinking based on what they post, where they've went. It's weird, culturally.
It's weird. Well, it's so easy too, not to put anything or anybody on blast, but it's so easy now to see where somebody works from their Facebook profile and just go in there and see them. I mean,
Patreon. Man, some of these questions are just bringing me down. Whose death hit you the hardest? What's your biggest regret?
That's literally the one I was thinking.
What the fuck, bro? No.
What is one fact that you wish the entire world would know instantaneously and they could not fight it? They knew in their head that it was a fact. Because it is a fact.
That isn't real.
I feel like I'm at a complete disadvantage. I feel like this is something that you've went to sleep thinking about.
No, I didn't. I don't even know what the fuck my answer is going to be. I have thought about this before,
but I don't remember my answer.
I don't know what the answer would be. I think I know what mine would be.
Okay, please go. He went to sleep thinking about this.
Every single living thing on this planet has 98% of the same DNA. So a blade of grass and a human being are more alike than they are different by 98%. And I think that would be so profound for people to actually know in their head. And I think it would cause a lot of ignorance and discrimination and fear to just be wiped out.
See, mine is a fact that I feel like everybody knows, but I really want it to seep into their consciousness. Does that count?
That is...
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Like, they have no... They can't negate it in any way, shape, or form. Like, there's no doubt whatsoever.
I want everyone to realize that society's rules and our cultural rules, everybody's cultural rules, no matter what country they're in, is absolutely meaningless. Now, do without whatever you want.
Everything is a social construct. It has to be worded as, like, one sentence.
That's exactly what I'm looking for. Like, I just want everyone to realize that you are on a rock, floating in space, going to a job to make paper, to pay for a structure made out of materials. Please absorb that. And now tell me that it's, like, really important that boys don't wear pink. Like, it just doesn't make any sense at all.
None.
And I just think everybody needs to realize that, like, the rules are made up and the points don't matter.
There's a lot of room for interpretation of that sentence. I think this is genie in a bottle rules suddenly.
No, I want them to feel my intent, though. But I want that to be the thing that rings in their head.
I support this emotion. I don't know about the sentence. I'm trying to think of something. The 1% literally owns 99.9% of the earth.
Yeah.
I don't know what specific statistic, but something like that. That coupled with the everything is a social construct is the sentence I want.
Same question, but something silly. Like something that like grinds your gears that people don't know.
No, while I'm laughing. The currency in Pokemon is Poke-Yen. It's not that you're spending $100 on this potion. You're spending the equivalent of $1 on this potion. Think of yen as like a penny. So no, it doesn't cost $500 for a single Pokeball. It costs $5. The symbol is even based on the yen symbol.
I want everyone to know every kind of shark.
Yeah?
And then we can talk about sharks, because I know every kind of shark.
This is a special interest I haven't picked up on this whole time.
Mine is using salt on a beer napkin.
Like, to keep it cold?
No, to get it to not stick to your napkin. You know, people put salt down on their napkins so that they put their beer down.
Abso-fucking-lutely. I know no one that does that. I am not a person that exists.
Time across America, bartenders have been putting salt on beverage napkins so that their beers don't stick to their napkin when they go to drink it, right?
Should I be doing this on every drink?
That's so dumb, and I hate it. But okay, continue.
But the thing is, salt and water, condensation from your glass, what happens to salt when it gets wet? It dissolves. And then the napkin is sticking to your fucking beer even worse than it would have been. You're supposed to use pepper, assholes. Fucking pepper.
Why are we seasoning our napkins? I'm too white for this.
I don't know what's happening.
But if you put pepper on your beverage napkin, you can set your glass down no matter how wet it gets, and it will never stick.
I mean, pepper must dissolve at some temperature, just not room temperature.
Okay, great. I'm glad we had this talk.
It was trying to lighten the mood, you know?
So what are some of your favorite words? So beverage is one of mine. Actual, just saying the word beverage. It's reserved for, like, gays and my great Aunt Nita. Like, that's who uses the word beverage. Like, some old Southern lady, maybe, says the word beverage. But, like, doll hand me a beverage. Like, beverage. Mwah. A+.
Oh, honey. Let me get you a beverage.
It's a great word.
I mean, I love moist because people are so weird about it.
Oh, yeah, totally. I love moist because people are weird about it.
We all really love to make people uncomfortable, so that does not surprise me.
My favorite word is minion because one time in middle school, this is long before the minions existed and took the word from me. I don't remember why, but a bunch of us were just, gathered in a group, like waiting for something to start or whatever, and the teacher couldn't get everyone's attention, and I just shouted, minion, and everyone fell silent. I was like, yes, I have power.
I also enjoy the word correct, but it has to be pronounced. All of the syllables.
Enunciated.
Yes.
Enunciated.
I like anything with a Y. I don't know why I'm obsessed with Y.
It's a high fantasy thing.
Yeah, it's a fantasy
Yeah,
thing,
it's definitely.
It's definitely
At least for
where can I put a Y where it
If
shouldn't,
you
shouldn't
like
be?
D&D or Lord of the Rings, if you like those things, you like Ys, like the letter Y. You like to
Yeah.
spell things with
You like to
Ys.
replace-
Eyes with Ys.
If you're trans, your name is either a word, one syllable, with something replaced with a Y.
I feel like if all theater kids could rename themselves, it would be the same vibe. The vibes are immaculate. I don't know how else to explain it.
Like lyrical. I like that word. That's nice. It's got a Y in it. I like it. If you could destroy an artificial flavor from existence, what would it be?
Grape.
Take it back.
Oh my god, this is controversial. It shouldn't be called grape.
Oh, what it should
None
be
of
called?
them should be
Purple?
called the fruit that
It
they're called
should
that.
be called purple. It tastes nothing like a grape.
Apple doesn't taste anything like apple. Strawberry doesn't
I
taste anything like
don't
strawberry.
know. if I
Banana
agree
tastes
with
like
that.
extinct banana.
But mine is definitely peach is number one. Artificial peach is disgusting.
I love peach
Vomit
tea.
everywhere. But banana is probably number two.
Well, that's because they're banana apocalypse bananas.
There's one of my facts that I want everyone to know that's silly.
About the banana apocalypse. Yeah.
What's the banana apocalypse?
The artificial banana flavor is modeled
Mhm.
after a banana that no longer exists. All bananas used to taste a certain way, and then disease, blah, blah, blah. There's some kind of blight, and all of the bananas, and
That entire breed is dead.
that entire breed is
And our
gone.
current bananas are very at risk for this too. Our bananas are poorly bred. My flavor I'm going with is green apple.
That's fair. Yeah. I think I'm going to switch my vote to green apple.
Really?
Yeah.
I like that. I like that move because grape should be safe.
I didn't say that I hated purple. It's just purple.
It's great.
Fago grape is purple.
Blue raspberry doesn't exist. There's no blue raspberries.
I imagine that's what a blue raspberry tastes like. Not like purple. I don't think that tastes like blue.
Watermelon does not taste like watermelon. All the candy flavors
so you
are
don't
not the
not
fruit they're
like
referred
grape flavor. You just think
Right.
it should
You
be
just-
called
It just
to. You
shouldn't
like
be called
purple,
grape.
but you're annoyed by the name.
Yeah. Strawberry, fake strawberry still has enough of a taste like strawberry, whereas grape tastes nothing like grape. How has your perspective of the world changed since doing this podcast?
I'll go first. A lot more jaded. I guess I don't know. I knew fucked up shit happened a lot, but I think when you're doing a podcast and you're researching them weekly and talking about them weekly, it does obviously bring that to the forefront. So I tend to see the world a little bit more negatively now since I've been doing this podcast. It's also made me a little hyper aware of my surroundings, though. I feel like I never was before.
The true crime paranoia.
Thank the Deep Dark Truth and you and Chip for my mental health
Great.
crises.
You're welcome for the jadedness. You're not welcome for the paranoia.
Bill me. We could probably write that off on our taxes. All right. I think for me, it changed the way that I look at true crime in terms of its entertainment value and how we treat true crime as somebody that produces that sort of content. I think you have to be hyper aware of what the actual state of your listeners is, but also the state of what the victims' families are. And
Your responsibility as a content maker.
yeah,
Right.
I feel like I used to be able to mindlessly watch Unsolved Mysteries or mindlessly watch Forensic Files, and I can't mindlessly watch it in the same way anymore. Not only because I'm thinking of, things that I think about now or know now that I didn't know then, like whether or not the police seem to be following typical protocols with dealing with media or whatever, those little things, but
Sure.
also just constantly thinking of how was this presented to me, and did I actually know anything about the victim? Have they talked about the victim or just the way that the victim died? Things that I never would have picked up on before. It wouldn't have fazed me that they weren't included. And now I'm constantly aware of it.
That's what's screaming in my head is lawsuits and power dynamic, which I also already knew, but in this minute way. This like C-grade celebrities going after nobodies.
And also how they use those weird power dynamics. I think me and Chip had a good handle on it because we've seen it play out in other fandoms that we're in. And
Totally.
big name fans, and how celebrity works when the celebrities aren't real celebrities. So we've watched that play out with everyone from authors to wizard rockers to voiceover artists to whatever. And we've been in those spaces where some minor comic book illustrator is somehow like the coolest fucking person in the room. We've been in those rooms.
Fandom famous is so fucking weird. And your experience of Phantom Famous is the weirdest. That's a Patreon episode there.
I came into it knowing that there would be some amount of that, but I really didn't understand how in a lot of our fandoms there's call out and it becomes something that is kind of dealt with by its community. But this, a lot of it feels much more behind the scenes, much more nefarious, much more monetary.
It's I don't know, so much more rooted in the finance side of it.
It really is. It's
like there's a lot of profit to be had in the Fandom Famous, but it's far more explicit.
I think everybody should ask their favorite like true crime podcasters questions that have to do with what is shit like behind the scenes, because I know what it's like been behind the scenes for us, and I wish I knew everything everybody else knows, because it's becoming an industry, but it's still so separate. You might listen to these two and never hear about this one, but this one has a huge audience that you don't even know about. Do you believe that people can change?
Yeah, but it's so much work. I don't think most people are willing to put in the work, but yeah.
I think so. Free will and choice is a thing. It's hard to break a habit. It takes a lot of work and a lot of perspective, because, I mean, there's so much involved to admitting it and, you know, dealing with it and whatever, changing. And
I think people are actively changing every time they're learning a significant amount of information. So I think if you realize you're wrong about 3 things, that those little things add up until they've changed you fundamentally as a person. And it becomes like one of them will become some new core ideal or belief of who you are. So I think people are always changing, but I think that people that tend to be like narcissists, yeah, they're going to change, but that doesn't mean that they're going to always change for the better either.
I mean, yeah, if we're going with people everything is literally change. This conversation is changing who we are as people.
Right. Change happens. Change is change.
A conscious, deliberate change is so much work.
It is a lot of work, but, I mean, change exists.
What's your definition of success? I don't know my answer to this. I just saw it on the list.
I think that's a sense of self-purpose. For somebody to say, I'm successful, that would translate into, I feel full and I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to and my purpose.
Life satisfaction.
I don't think it necessarily means like, oh my God, I have $1 billion. Are you happy and content?
Accomplished. Do you feel accomplished?
Yeah. Right.
In what you are doing or have done or what you find your purpose to be? I feel like it's about feeling accomplished. That doesn't mean you're the best.
Mm-hmm.
What's the scariest moment in your life so far? One serious one, one silly one. Okay, I've got my silly one. Sometime in high school, Christmas Eve. I wait till everyone goes to bed, and I don't remember what I was bringing downstairs, but I was bringing someone's presents downstairs to, you know, have it appear under the tree or whatever for Christmas morning. And I got downstairs, and there was a silhouette in the living room, and I just felt all the heat drain from my body, and it was my cardboard cutout of Jack Sparrow that my sister got me for Christmas. It was like, I am about to die, that's cardboard. That's Johnny Depp.
My silly one would definitely be like probably us doing Spirit Call.
Yeah, mine also is.
Mine was in our backyard. I distinctly remember just feeling that presence and just it being in that moment and being actually scared, and like what Chip is like describing, like when you feel so hot, really weird. Real life, probably getting a phone call that my mom had a massive heart attack. I mean, that was probably the scariest, I think, that I've ever felt, like, real scared and, like, not able to control anything or any situation or any emotion that was going on.
No, that's fair.
Yeah, there's a reason it's silly and real.
That might have been my answer for when my dad had his heart attack. Had I not had my wisdom teeth out that day and been high as fuck on Xannies. I think mine is before I went into the hospital. It was like day 5 of not being able to eat. Recap, I had a gallstone that blocked off my entire liver and I jaundiced and I couldn't keep anything down for almost a week and a half. Day 5 or 6 of that, I was in more pain than I had ever been in my whole life, and I undid the front door, unlocked it in case I had to call 911, and I couldn't move. And I was just like, what a horrible thing that somebody's gonna find me dead here. That was like my absolute scariest moment, and it wasn't, I'm in pain, I'm gonna die. It was, Michael is gonna find me dead, crawled on this carpet. He's gonna need a lot of therapy. Like, it was scared for like the after. It was a super fun, upbeat question.
Yeah, that was not fun. You brought me back to that time I blacked out and cracked my head open and had to get hospitalized too. That was scary as fuck. For about 12 hours, I couldn't sit up.
Yikes.
I was so dehydrated and my blood pressure was so low that they couldn't sit me up. And I was going in and out of conscious for hours. It was very scary.
Big question. Dumb answers only.
Okay, no serious.
What do you think is the meaning of life?
The ghost that just closed Mikey's door.
I've decided sex is the meaning of life because it propagates life. And so that's it.
I think the meaning of life is a weird question because life as in life, meaning life, I would think it's birth, rebirth, and death and the cycle.
My answer was really a more, why do we exist? And it's like, because we keep having children. Obviously, that's why we still exist. That's the only reason we should still exist. Versus the philosophical, feeny answer of like, do good, you know?
Yeah. So I think it's mushrooms for that, like, scientific perspective. Because mushrooms are on everything and everywhere. And it's constantly
Can't
life.
trust a mushroom.
Mikey's just like, it's fungi. It's the fungi for me.
It's the fungi. But in sense of life from like a human's perspective, what is the meaning of life? I'm going to go with the success, the sense of purpose. Like, that's the meaning of life. To
Silly
find
answers only.
your
Mushrooms
purpose.
only.
Oh, mushrooms only.
Everything eventually becomes crabs. The meaning of life is to become crab. That is the true version of success, the self-actualization of being crab.
Have we did what our favorite Pokemon are on this show? We've talked about it. Anyways,
well,
mine is Ninetales. We literally just had this conversation, and
a
so
week ago.
I am inserting
less.
it. We did we have to pick one then, and you picked one. So who did you pick? You've already picked them. Everybody else had to answer, and you waffled?
Was Vaporeon one of your answers?
This is what we went with. Vileplume, Gengar, and Flareon are my 3 favorite Pokemon, and it's hard for me to pick one from them. I'm not even kidding. It's really hard. But if I had to go with, like, overall favorite Pokemon, or I'd want to have one, it's Eevee.
Favorite Pokemon versus Pokemon that you want in your house.
Yeah.
And that's how I decided my favorite Pokemon years ago was Arcanine, because if I could have exactly one Pokemon exist, it is a giant, fluffy pupper who can, like, run fast enough to run on water and can breathe fire.
But just to be clear, guys, Flareon is better than Ninetales and Arcanine. So we don't want to, like, give false information on our Deep Dark Truth podcast. So
we need some more dumb questions, because shit is just getting too serious.
If you could go jungle bogging through the Amazon, or...
This sounds miserable. What are my other options?
Skydiving, scuba diving.
The ocean can't be trusted, though. What jungle am I doing this jeeping through?
Any jungle you want it to be. I was just, whatever.
I would definitely do the jungle bogging. I love the big giant fan boats in the Everglades. It is the coolest fucking thing. Also,
I want to do it.
the idea of a safari where they're not zoo kept animals, like where it's a Tiger King type of scenario that I'm contributing to, and you're just driving through their actual habitat, that has its own problems. I get that, people, okay?
There's no ethical consumption under jungle.
Yeah.
I'm going skydiving for sure.
Fuck that, I'm out.
Going with the jungle because it's the illusion of control. I don't have more control than I do in skydiving or whatever, but I pretend I do. So.
My stomach doesn't want to fall out of my mouth if I'm in a Jeep. Okay?
I mean, there's some big-ass bumps going on. This isn't just a stroll. Even the dirt roads.
Scuba diving's cool, too. The jungle got me.
Can't trust the ocean.
Well, of course not.
There's too many things I don't know how deadly there are.
I don't even think they know how deadly they are.
They don't. Did you know there are poisonous birds? As in, if a human ate this bird, it would kill you. For poison reasons.
No, I did not.
There's some sort of goose that it depends on its diet, so whatever it's eating stays in its body and that kills us. But there are a couple that are just inherently poisonous to us.
I thought it was vultures. Is it flamingos?
They were all birds I had never heard of, except for, generic category of goose.
Spur-winged goose, is that it? Or the ruffed goose? Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
There's 10 birds that are poisonous?
Something like that. Fun fact for everyone in the world to know instantly, birds are dinosaurs.
I don't trust them at all.
I trust them more than I trust mushrooms and the ocean.
You know who I trust less than birds? People that think that birds are the best pets. I trust those people.
Pets? No.
Those people are serial killers.
See, mine's cats. I don't understand why we domesticated cats.
They domesticated themselves, it turns out. They just sort of moved in.
See, I'm anti-birds as pets just because they fly. You putting them in a structure where they can't fly
well, that
is just
too.
Inhumane.
You have to clip their wing or whatever, and that's shitty.
Cats are the number one hunters on the planet. They're hunters. They can't hunt in a house.
But that's why it makes sense for cats to coexist for humans the same way of, like, smaller breed terriers, because they kill rats, and rats spread disease.
I'm a bird person. I definitely want a raven. I definitely would like a macaw.
I aesthetically want a raven to ride on my shoulder for the rest of time. That's why we make D&D characters. I'm not going to trap a raven to live on my shoulder. Okay, this is one a little long, so we're going to stop there. But we're going to save the rest of the questions for later, and please submit more. You can send them to the deepdarktruthpodcast@gmail.com or text them to the tip line at 313-355-3411. And there's still time to submit any of your spooky paranormal experiences. Until next time.
You just listened to the Deep Dark Truth Podcast. See you next time. And remember, your local cryptids want to meet you.